Hello and welcome back to SolidMotion VFX. Today we'll do a little follow-up on using Malbers Animal Controller as well as using Emerald AI 2024 for the NPCs, the enemies, and we will try to also implement a dialogue system from Pixel Crushers. So those are the three main components and the main purpose of this tutorial. I have a pretty simple scene. I'm using Polygon Ancient Empires. I've just loaded up the default demo scene, which is really awesome, beautiful layout. From Malbers Animation, I just went into the Sign Machine and dragged in the camera using all the Sign Machine cameras. I made a longer 1 hour video where I go into more detailed about the Malbers Animal Controller asset. In that video we also looked at how to swap out a character. That was using a high poly character. For this one I will swap out with a Cinti model asset. I see people having some issues with that, and we'll also align the weapons afterwards. We'll use a saw and we'll use the rifle to make use of profiler. Then we'll look at his animator and look at his avatar. This is called character's avatar. Go down to prefab and unpack completely. The same with the captain. Prefab, unpack completely. I go to Steve. Let's rename this to player, and we'll look at his animal controller. Change this avatar to the character avatar, which was the one from our captain here from the Cinti model asset. And we can go down to meshes, disable meshes, and disable the RCG. With this little setup, let's see what we have. Okay, so we have our character. It's running, jumping, crouching, rolling, and seems like he thinks he has the saw in his hand. Let's see if we pick up the saw, E, and he drops it again, not picking up. What about the rifle? Okay, let's start with going into the weapon manager for the character. So click on the player. Let's see if his components. So the weapon manager here, and the holsters. Yeah, let's empty everything here. Delete, delete, delete. And also while we're here, look at the general. The left hand and right hand we need to put in from our own characters. Go into the root of your Cinti model, and let's look for the hands. So with those weapons, remove the inventory and put in the left and right hand. Now his punches works. Let's go pick up the saw. Yes, it's definitely got position correct. Let's go to the rifle. And the same thing here. Completely offset. Okay, so we'll fix those two things before we go in and test the weapon and align it. Let's go into our player character. From the player character, let's go into the weapon manager. And we don't want him to store his weapon because we want to have it visible all the time. So just put this to 0, like so. And then click on your collectible weapon and then pin it. Go into play mode, go pick up the weapon here. So now we need to make sure we align it correctly. So what we're gonna do is make sure we go into his weapon. So click on the weapon itself, and it's this one. Okay, so now we want to align it. So start with the rotation. Let's say 180, and I'll switch the local to global, and you can actually just pause it here. Give ourselves some room here on the plate. Definitely, that looks much better, much better. So what we will do now is that open the transformation, right click on the position while you have the saw collectible while you have his saw collectible component pinned. Right click on the position, say copy, and then you'll make sure on your melee weapon component be in the general tab, and then you'll go down to your hand and holster. On this position, right click, say paste. You do the same with the rotation. Right click, copy Euler angles, and go down to rotation and paste that in. So now we have the values in here. Now we want the whole component. So what we're gonna do now is go to the melee weapon component, and we'll make a copy of that. Copy component. While it's pinned down, don't unpin it, but go out of game mode, and now while you still have this saw collectible fire, in this melee weapon, go over here to the three dots, then paste component values. While you do that, look at the values down here. They changed. Go into play mode, and let's go grab the saw, and it should work now. Perfect. Saw is working. So now we deal with the gun, just as before with the saw. Let's fix the rotation first on the rifle. So let's go grab the rifle. And right now it's messed up. So we need to find the rifle in the hierarchy. Click on the rifle collectible and then make a rotation here. 180. Okay, so when you have it approximately fixed, it's just before you go up to the position, right click, say copy, and down at the general, go down to hand and holster, and then on the right hand offset, right click on the position, paste, do the same with the rotation, copy Euler angles, rotation, right click, paste. Okay, and then you want to check the shootable component and also copy the component here, pin it, go out of game mode, and then on the shootable again, paste the component values, these ones. Okay, and now let's play again and see if when he picks it up, if he holds it upright. Yes, he's holding it up. That's perfect. Now we need him to aim, but now as you see, when we aim, his spine is all over the place. So we need to fix that, aim constantly, so we can better adjust his spine. So for that, let's go to the weapon manager, and on the inputs, we can see aim input has a string of action 2. So let's go up to the Malbers input, this one, and action 2 is up here. So right now it's set to interaction of press. Let's just do toggle. So now if we aim, he should be constantly aiming. Yeah. Okay, so now let's go into his rifle, collectible, and then under IK, we need to open up this aim IK right. Click on this, and you're gonna see it on your project view here. Now I suggest you make a copy and then modify your own. But in this case, you're just gonna have one rifle IK profile. But in this case, for the sake of the tutorial, we're just gonna be using the default one, rifle IK profile. Pin that. So here's where the magic's gonna happen. These are the values you can modify on. Right now on the offsets, you're gonna build upon by clicking on the plus and add new ones. So right now it's looking at the spine. So on the y-axis, you can see what it's gonna do. If we're gonna move it up here a little bit, negative 180, pointing upwards right now. Let's get him down like this. So here you have to tweak the values until it fits your needs. So right now, this looks good to me. And you can see his head here as well. If you want to tweak him a little bit more so the gun looks toward more the direction here, then use this horizontal offset. Yeah, let's just say 30. Let's aim again. Yeah, that looks good to me. Cool. So that's how we aligned the profile here, and because it's been saved, we can go in now and just go out of game mode and play again. It should work. Setting up the NPC enemy. So I'm not going to go into details how to set it up from A to Z. I already did a tutorial on that. See the link up in the right corner, link in the description as well. So for this one, he's already set up. If we play here, you can see he's just set up with his animation, his random walk and such. So he doesn't detect me, doesn't damage me or anything like that. On the AI here, what we want to do, make sure in your detection system that he's detecting your layer. So my player has the tag of player and my detection layer, my layer is animal. So if I go back to my player, then you can see that my tag is player and my layer is animal. So that's the first step, make sure that the NPC can detect that. The faction of this enemy is set to enemy. In order for an Emerald AI to detect the player, you need to set up a bridge. So Emerald comes with this Emerald General Target Bridge. I would suggest you can also use the Emerald Player Bridge, which is more customizable. But for the sake of this tutorial, we will go General one. When you add that, it's gonna add a target position modifier, where the AI can. This is a position where you put in a bone or gizmo, so where the other AIs will actually attack you. And then set up your faction. That's important to set it to player. This is the bridge that ensures that your AI won't keep attacking you once the player's dead, because I know people have been struggling with that as well. First of all, let's go to the target position modifier. Open that. Let's set in the transform source. For this one, we're going to just set in the root, like so. And it's gonna add in this little round red gizmo here. Let's get it higher up around the body middle here, and also enlarge it a little bit, like so. That was the first step here for the target position modifier. Then go to the faction. Make sure that you set this to player, because the player is an enemy for the AI. And then here, right now, let's just give it a health of 100, and we have this. Let's play and see what we have now. Okay, he's definitely detecting me, and look at the current health here. When he hit me, it went down to from 100 to 20, and there I got killed. And then when it goes to dead, he's not gonna touch me anymore. On the AI's saw, you'll see I have this attack trigger, which is a Malbers component. And in here on the damage, I set it to minimum and max of 30. So this is the damage. Okay, I set that to 30. And on the AI itself, you look on the combat, and then I have one attack animation that's using this ability saw. So if I go in and look at the saw melee, in here you can set it to what the emeralds would damage you. I tend to put them the same value as the one I damage from the attack trigger. So 30-30. Go back to your player. If we take the stats up, so it starts with 50 here, and the emerald starts with 100. Let's see, 186, one hit, and that made me come down to 20, and 20 here as well. Kill me completely, dead. Now let's take a look at the health and see how does this work. How do we make sure that the same health here from this component is looking at the health from the stats here from the Malbers. Right now the Malbers sets to 50. Let's see this current health. Current health also starts with 50. So 50 and 50. So let's see how this will work. I open up the Emerald AI script, this one, Emerald General Target Bridge. Open that. In here, make sure you have the correct namespaces. So what I added to this script is that here I'm fetching the stats. The stat is the one where we have the health component on from the Malbers. This one we will use later. This is for if you want to utilize the dodging and strafing, then you need to detect whenever your player is actually aiming at the AI, then the AI will actually dodge and strafe. So, but with this private stats, you go down to your start method, and in here I'm getting the component stats, because this script is already located on the player itself, so it'll go in and get the component stat. And here, this is how you actually get the value. So the health, which is the health from the Emerald AI, it will equal, instead of current health, I'm gonna change this to an int, meaning I'm gonna convert the float, because the Malbers is a float and the Emerald AI is a int. So I'm gonna say stats.stat get value which value we want. We want the health. So the health will be equal to the health, and it's gonna convert it from a float to int. And this is how the start health will be the same, both from Emerald AI to the Malbers. And here I'm fetching also the weapon manager component, as talked before, when we want to use the ace aiming. Then further down, if you go down here to the health, so this is when you're actually taking damage, public void default damage. In here, this is how it was set up originally, health minus damage amount. Instead, what I do is I added these two lines here. So the health equals the health value. So whatever the health value from the Malbers will be changing as long as it's getting attacked, and that value will be updated here and will be equal to the health. So that's pretty simple. And if we go down to public bool is tagging, so this is the one where it says is aiming dot aim equals true. So when the weapon is actually aiming at it's an aim mode, then it means that will trigger a dodge and strafe on the other AI. And I'll just put a debug in here to test it out. But you need this one. This is the original line. You need to either delete it or comment it out, and then put up return, and then is aiming dot aim. This is aiming is the one we fetch up here. So let's save this, go back. So game mode now, you should see that even though that it says 100 start health here, then this value current health will change to the same value as in the stats manager, which is 250, 250. So let's take some damage there and pause. You see 220, 220. So these two are aligned right now. So that's pretty cool. Let's just start with a very low value, 20, and look at this value again. Why I said 20 is why I put in a low value is because I want the AI to kill me. I want the AI to kill the player fast, so you can actually see when the player is dead, the AI will actually walk away. As long as this turns into dead, then the AI won't detect him anymore. There. And now it's dead. And I look at the AI walking away. So that fixes how your AI walks away after the player is dead, as well as how you align both the Emerald health component along with the health component from the Malbers controller. Now let's take a look at how we can deal damage and actually make a prefab effects explosion. So we do that by going into the guard soldier and add in M damageable, and this will add a stats as well to the AI, and the AI we just keep it as the standard 100. And the M damageable up here, you will see that the stats for this, you'll see this surface ID here, and it's right now set to flesh. You can go in and just change this to whatever you want. I made a copy of it and then just called it female soldier flesh with an ID of 11 up here. So go back to your character here, or the AI, then change this to the female soldier flesh. And now what you need to do is make sure that you have a prefab effect for that. And you, first of all, now we want to see how we instantiate that effect every time we hit with the, let's say, our rifle. So with a rifle up here, so we go to the rifle, and then rifle you go to extras, and then under effect, you're gonna hit effect, list is empty. This one you're gonna add one, and for the service ID, you can add in the female soldier flesh. And remember, you can put as many as you want here. So if you're hitting metal, you can spawn a metal effect. If you're hitting flesh, you can spawn blood effect. So for this one, we are hitting the female flesh, and this service ID we have on our AI. Now, in order to actually put something here, you have to change it from global to local, and then go in and find whatever effect you have. So in my case, I'm going to go into prefabs, combat, blood, red, and blood explosion. We'll just take this one. This is a very cartoony effect, so it's very exaggerated. Go back to the gun, pin it, and blood explosion right here. And then I want to destroy the hit effect after 0.2, unless you don't have a script on it that's going to destroy it by itself. So let's go test this out. But before we do that, remember I only have a health of 30, so let's go in and to my stats and give me some more health. And now let's go back in and in play mode and test out if see if whenever we hit the AI with a bullet, that is gonna instantiate this blood explosion. Okay, pick up the weapon. And let's see here. Yep, see that? Now, if you're getting this effect whenever you are hitting your AI, you see that you are also losing health up here, even though that you're actually losing it in your values. But you're just seeing on the slider here, the visuals, it's going down, and you're also getting this blood prefix effect. You can fix that if you click on your player, the health stats here on health change. So under events, on the health stat, under events, you have this UI here, which is set right now to health stat. That is a default one for everything. If you go to your enemy, so right now you're looking at your enemy stats and go to events, you'll see that exactly the same one. So you just need to change this one out. You can copy it and just give it a new name, duplicate it and give it a new name. So let's just put this in UI health stat enemy female soldier. And then remember the event invoke. Event invoke, like so. Let's test it out again. Keep in mind, I'm not using root motion to have this the dodging and strafing effect. You should definitely use root motion for that to work properly. So right now I'm just using in-place animations. Why I'm mentioning this is because look at when I'm aiming at the AI, how she's trying to dodge me. You see now, it's only the AI that's actually losing health on the enemy AI component there, so it's not me. Look, when I'm aiming, he's trying to dodge me. So that's pretty cool. But if you use root motion, she'll actually spawn around the place. As mentioned before in the other tutorial, I already showed you how the AI damages the player. So that was just a custom script. So on the saw box, I made a box collider. I had some animation events. So whenever the saw is getting range to hit me, enable box and disable box. And on the saw, I have the attack trigger on. And here I made a little script. So basically, I have a public reference to the saw box, reference the emerald eye, and then this is the script I use to damage. So the single damage value. So whenever this emerald eye uses the interface of eye damageable, whenever it hits a component that has the eye damageable, and because I'm using the emerald target general target bridge component, then it would detect that I have an eye damageable interface on me. Then in here it will do the damage. And because this damage, remember, it was a float, I needed to convert it into an int, and that's why I put this in here. So this was not in the original tutorial on the last video, so if you put this in, that will definitely fix that. Otherwise, you also go in and put everything into float from the emerald AI. Same goes with the gun. Remember, on the damage, you have this hit layer. On your hit layer, click that, open hit layer. Make sure that you have the layer of enemy or whatever layer your enemy has in this case. So my enemy guard here, she has the layer of enemy. So put that on, otherwise you won't take damage. The same way goes on the stats, that when you kill your AI, when it's below 0, you want to play the death animation and stay dead. So the way to do that is go into unhealthy empty on your AI stat. Then on health empty, we need to drag in our game object, the AI, and then find emerald health, this one, and then kill AI. This should solve the diff animation and also the state. Let's test it. Dead and stay dead. Yeah, it worked. So that was it for how to enabling the Emerald AI to detect you, to kill you, to deal damage to you, and also the other way around. Next, we will go into deep dive on implementing a dialogue system using Pixel Crusher's dialogue system for Unity. Dialogue system for Unity, created by Pixel Crusher. If you go on the Unity store, you can also see he's one of the best rated asset creator. He has only almost got 5 stars reviews. His support is top notch. When you go in and join the forum, you will not be disappointed. He responds very fastly. Every question in there has been responded to. It's very flexible and powerful because it's node-based. It has branches. You can go out and create different kind of elements, different kind of variable setup and actions related to the powerful system. We'll start out with a basic example where I just add in a cube and we want our player to interact with the cube to start up our dialogue system. Okay, so So that will be our first basic example, and then afterwards we move on to a more advanced where we're actually going to use the NPC character and do some interactions there and see how we can actually utilize awesome features from inside the Pixel Crushers dialogue system. This is a huge asset, the dialogue system. There are so many components, so many sequences and examples you can use, so many use cases for this. So we won't be deep diving into everything. We're just going to go through the basic and then a more showcase of how to actually be using it in your game. By the end of this tutorial, you should be able to set up your own dialogue system. So the first thing you want to add is a dialogue manager into your system. Go into your plugins, then Pixel Crushers, then into the dialogue systems. Here you have different folders, demos, resources, scripts and such. What we want is the prefabs. And we want this dialogue manager. Add that to the scene, and it's gonna add this awesome dialogue system controller to you. Instantiate prefabs, input device managers, so you have controls over many aspects of this. So first of all, what we want inside this input device manager, we want to uncheck this control cursor state. Uncheck that. That means when you start playing, your cursor won't be active. Now, dialogue system controller. This is where you're going to start at the first thing. You need to create a dialogue database. So let's do that. Create one. My test database. We'll just name it my test database. Put it in a folder. Save it. And then you get this dialogue system window here. What I tend to do is I dock it up here. So I have this bigger window to work with. From here, you have the database. You have actors. Right now, there's only the player by default. You can add as many as you want. So we're going to add... Let's just add in, for example, the cube right now. And then when you click on one of them, you have these highlighted over here with the ID numbers, the name, portrait, where we will actually put in icons for the sprite icons for the images, depending on if you want that. We'll do that when we set up the NPC and the player. Then you have quest items, locations, variables. This is a really big step in here. There's a really big part of the asset in here. You can add different types of variables, actor, boolean, numbers, text, and so on. We'll also be using that. Conversation. Here we'll actually start up the conversation. But first, let's actually start up one here right away. So right now, you're just going to click on this plus sign, and it's going to add one called new conversation. If you go to the right here, you can just name this whatever you want. Cube talk. Let's call it that. Then you have your player and your cube. These two will talk to each other. This is node-based. That means everything here works in nodes. So right now you just have the start node. It is recommended that you don't use the start node. How do you make a child entry? You right click on the yellow and then you create a child node and it's going to create this gray one. So as default, the gray here is actor, it's cube, so that will be the NPCs. And the next one, if you make one more, create child, will be blue and that will be your player. So you see how it changes? Actor, cube, and if I click on the next one, look at the actor name, it goes to player. That's how it ends. And always the last node will have the text end, even though that you can also change that, of course. So let's just make a very simple dialogue here. So let's say when the player comes up to the cube within its trigger zone, then the cube will say in here, you can write in here, dialogue text, just say, hello there. And you see that the text is here. So you can either enter it over here in the dialogue text, or you can also just double click on the node and enter your text right here. So here we'll just say, well, hello. Who are you? Question mark. And then create a new child node. And you say, I am player. And then one more int. So this is the basic. This is the basic node structure here. This is a very, very basic node structure we have right here. And this is our first conversation. Cube talk. Drop down. You'll see how many conversations you have ongoing. Right now you just have this cube talk. Now let's go and see how we can actually utilize this on us. You click on the cube. Then let's add in a box collider. And for this box collider we want to change it. So we have some room here to work with. I think that this works good. Okay. So the main component here you are going to add to whatever your actor will be is going to be the dialogue system trigger, this one. And here you can trigger depending on many use cases. On use, on start, on enable. What we want is on trigger enter. And this of course requires that we have a box collider with set to trigger. And here it says add the player tag. We want the player tag, just add that right away. So it's set up, and you can see what database it's referencing. It's referencing our database. So up here you see the reference database. Make sure that it's referencing the correct database. So right now, because I had a test before with another database, right now it's not set to the correct one. If you look up here in your database, your current one, it says my test database. So you need to make sure that this is also reflecting that one. So go up here, and then you just go down to my test database. This one. Now we know it's the correct one. And then on action, what should happen when you actually enter the trigger? Add action, what we want is a start a conversation. And which conversation do you want to start? The cube talk. Then conversation actor, put in the cube as the actor and the player for the conversation. Now we want to pause the game during conversation, and during the conversation we also want to show cursor, like so. Okay, so with this basic setup, we leave this window here so you can see how it actually gonna go through each node while we're actually playing the game. Let's test it out. Okay, so the cube is over there. Let's go into the trigger right here, and here it comes up. Well, hello, who are you? And look how it becomes green. Then if you click on it, it's gonna move on to the next one, saying I'm the cube, and then I am player. If you click on that, it goes down and it ends like so. That was a very basic conversation. If I go out again and come back, it's gonna enter the zone again, right? So let's go out of this. Let's look short at the variables. So if you go to variables, and then let's just change this to a Boolean, and then say first talk, and this is set to false. So if we do that, then go back to conversation. Now the way you create another branch is by right clicking on any of the nodes and just say create child node. It's gonna create this branch here. Create child node again. So let's say that if he's been there, talked once, and he comes back again, then you don't want to run through this node tree here. You want to go to this one. Then over here, let's just say he's gonna say you again, question mark, and then it says, let's just for simplicity, that's just for the simplest tutorial, let's just say yes, it's me again, and then just end it like so. Now here on the nodes, under here you have sequence and conditions and script. The sequences is where you can go in and write specific commands and where the camera should look at, if your animator should play a specific animation, and so will be here. Conditions are what is based on to be able to play this node. You'll put that in here, for example, what we're going to do now with the variable. And then a script if you want to actually run something from your script. And this is also what we're going to do later on with advanced setup, where we can look at Lua. Now we want to say, to be able to play this here, the condition here should be that if you go to this, the three dots, click on that, and then click on the plus sign here, change from quest to variable. And since we only have one variable, we just leave it at first talk. So the condition here should be that the first talk Boolean should be false. Apply. So if it's true, it's gonna play this one. If it's false, it's gonna play this one. Now remember, it starts with false. So if we run through the first conversation, when it ends, we have not set it to true yet. So we need to do that somewhere along these nodes here. So right now in the first node, we have set it to false, or we just set the condition to be able to play this will be false. So we can just go down to the last one, I am a player. Then at the script here, let's go and set the variable to true. So go in the script and variable first talk, we set it true right here. Okay, so we say, yep, variable first talk true, apply. This is how it looks like. Okay, now we try. Let's test it out. I just disabled the main UI from the Malbers Animal Controller, so the health UI up in the left corner won't be visible, so we can actually see the text from the conversation. Okay, let's move over to the cube. So it says hello there. Right up here, it's gonna play this hello there, and we say who are you? And he says I'm a cube up here, and then the player responds I'm a player. And remember, the game is paused, that's why everything is just frozen. Now we go back again, and the other condition, yeah, it's playing that now. You again, yes, it's me again. And that's it. And now if we go out and we come back again, remember the trigger is still there. We go back again. It's going to play this one because the condition is already set to true. The script is the variable is set to true, so we'll keep playing this. Now, let's see how to fix that. On the cube, there's another component which is also very useful. We're going to be using now. That could be on the cube you have this dialog system trigger on. So either use a dialog system events, which are the basically two main components you'll be using when you're dealing with dialogues. That is the dialog system trigger you put on your actor, on your NPC, or whatever area you want, a zone, for example, where you have the main conversation and actions in here. Then you have the dialog system event. This is a powerful component which comes with the asset, where you can actually instruct what's going to happen when a conversation starts, what's going to happen when a conversation ends. If we put in to deactivate the system trigger game object here, then it will do it right away when this first node tree is done. That means we cannot play the second node tree. That's why in this use case I would not use it. So we're just going to remove it, but instead we want him to come back again, and when we have set this to true, it's going to play this one. When this node tree is done, then we want to destroy the trigger. So what we're going to do is actually on each node, if you click on each node, you will see that on the right you have a field here called events. If you click on that, you have on execute and scene events, and this is the one we want. So here at this node tree, yes, it's me again. Let's click on the add scene event, and here add a plus, and then just add in your cube. Then you can either go to game object, set bool inactive, or you can go down to the dialog system trigger, this one, and then bool enable, set to false. So when it's gonna execute this node tree here, then it's gonna look at this system event and it's gonna disable the system trigger. So let's try that out, and we can look at the cube while we're doing it. This will be disabled. Let's log it. Let's go over. The first initial talk. Who are you? I'm a cube. I'm a player. Go away, and then come back again. You again. And keep an eye on this dialog system trigger when it gets to this next node. Yes, it's me again. So you see that? Now it's disabled. So that's how you use these individual node trees here. Now let's add something cool here. Let's say we want to have a camera facing this one while we're talking, right? So what you will do here, we will add a camera. So I'm gonna say on my camera nodes up here, right click, say add a camera. Let's see where we have this camera. I'm gonna place it so it's facing the cube. Okay, let's say something like this. And then on the camera, we'll just call it a cube cam, something like this. And the cool thing about this is that you actually will disable it, so it's not gonna be impacting your game, because all these cameras will be disabled. It's only gonna be using it in that conversation. And this is where we're gonna use the sequences. And I highly suggest that you're gonna look at the documentation. There's also tons of videos on cutscenes from the creator himself. So inside the sequencer, you can see how to write sequences, sequence commands. So there's definitely tons of use cases for this right in here. Now, what we're gonna do is go into the dialog, and as soon as it says hello there, in this sequencer field, we're gonna use a switch camera command. So switch camera, and then you're gonna enter the camera name in here. So here we said cube cam. So just write cube cam like so, and just click on the check to see if everything becomes green. Looks good. So switch cam is gonna be looking at this from this node. Let's see how that works. Let's see. If we go over here, look at that. So right now the camera was placed in a weird place, so you can actually see the cube, but it is using the camera right now. So who are you? So looking at a camera right now, but look, it's not even activated. I'm a player. That was the switch camera sequence, which we'll be using heavily later on, because we want to have a specific camera angle when we look at our actor, the NPC. So I want to show another cool sequencer command, which is called look at. Take it. So just look at it. If you don't put anything else here, and if you don't put any parameters in it, you just keep it as look at. Then look what it's gonna do. It's gonna ensure that both the actor and the player are facing each other. So imagine your system trigger. It's a big zone, and you come from behind. then you don't want it to pause the game and while your actor is actually talking to the player while not facing him. Right now, you'll see here, this is our cube and this is our player. If we go to the scene, click on the cube. So look at this direction, how it changes when our player gets near it. Let's come from this side here. Now look at the cube. Yeah. Look at the C direction. It changed direction facing directly towards the player here. That's what the cool look at command does. That's pretty cool itself. Then that was the very, very basics of how to set up a conversation, how to use a variable to go from one tree to another, depending on whether the variable is true or not. These are all covered in the basics here. Now I want us to move on to some advanced stuff where we're actually going to use an Emerald AI NPC as our conversation actor. We're going to place him up here at this platform. And let's just imagine that our player is coming from down the staircases here. And then this NPC, he will stop the player, go into a conversation. He's going to ask the player for 500 coins, else he cannot enter. So that will be the condition. And these coins, the value, we need to set up a script to make sure that we are reading, that we have the that we have the correct amount of money. We have the correct amount of coins to actually pass. So there will be some scripting here. We're going to look into Lua language. I'm going to create the script and leave it in the description so you can download it if you want to use it. It's up to you, but this is really important that you follow these steps if you want to learn how really to use the dialogue system, because this is really here where it shines. So as mentioned before, this time we will set up so we have an NPC enemy here up in front of this door, and the purpose here is that our player will enter our system trigger and this NPC, and when he does that, then we will be provided with 3 options. One will be if we have enough coins, then we'll be allowed to enter the door here, the door will open, and one will be to say no, that we don't have enough coins, and the third one will be that we just want to fight the NPC. So these will be the 3 options we have when we enter the system trigger on this one. So the NPC is set up with the Emerald AI with all the regular components as described in another tutorial. Of course, because we are using Malbers, I'm also using mDamageable and stats, and I have added a script to this, modified NPC script, which we will go through. And for the sake and length of this tutorial, I will not be writing everything up. I will just show you the script. I will link that in the description so you can use the script to modify it, to change it for however you like. But this script will give you a good idea how to implement dialogue systems Lua language. Now into the documentation, you will easily see that Lua language is a powerful scripting language inside the dialogue system, and you can use it for several things here. You can read up upon it in the logage. In the documentation, Lua language is also the language they use for Roblox, I believe. But there is some very logical commands here. If you go to the dialogue editor again, you'll see that I have created under actor and player and NPC. So for the player, what I went and did was I created 2 icons. I just took a little screenshot of my player's face and one from the NPC. And the way you put these icons up so you have them inside your dialogue is you click on the actor, click on the player, then on your inspector, drill down the portrait textures. This one, you can just drag your sprite texture up to this one. So remember, it has to be a sprite texture. The same thing with the NPC. I put that one up here as well. Now for the conversation, I already created a conversation, so you can see how the layout is. I call this need to enter, and it's going to go like this. So we have a start method, and then it's going to drill down where you're going to see the next entry will be. So here's how the sequence is written out on this one. First, I use this command here, look at, which we saw before with the cube. This will ensure that both the player and NPC are looking toward each other. Then I'm doing a switch camera command. I'm using this camera cam guard. If we go to my cameras, so I have this cam guard. This one is placed so it's looking at the first node here in an angle where my NPC will say stop, do not enter here. Then this one you haven't seen before is that we don't want our UI to be displayed in this first node here. So that's why we set the dialogue panel to false immediately. We are playing a specific animation. So I'm using this spear stop. This is the animation which is on the animator on my NPC. So if I choose my NPC, these custom animation, this is a regular spiderweb Emerald AI. Then over here I have put in these additional animations. So I have this guard, stop, bow on, respect, idle to stand as such. So this one, spear, stop, guard, I have it right here. So this animation with the exact wording, you'll put that in here, and then after the comma, you need to make sure that this name here is your name of your NPC game object. So in this case, the guard, soldier, female, extra, this one, that will go here. When the message is done, then it's gonna set the dialogue panels true. That means it's gonna again go in and enable the dialogue, and then it's gonna go in and enable the UI again, and then afterwards it's gonna continue to the next node where he's gonna say stop there, enter your business. That's what the NPC is gonna tell. The sequence here, we are switching over to another camera. From this node, we're switching over to another camera which is called CamGuard 2, and I have that here, CamGuard 2, this one, which is more up front of the NPC. Still no conditions here. Now we go down to the player. Now the player says, I need to speak with the Emperor. And here we're still using the CamGuard 2. And here the NPC will respond, do you have 500 gold coins? And then you are presented with these three options. The first one, yes, here you go. The condition here to be able to be presented with this option is that our gold coins here, it actually has above 500. And that's the condition here. So if my current gold is an end, if that's above 500, we will have the conditions met. And if the condition is met, run this method inside the script called subtract gold. So it's gonna subtract the 500 from our current gold up here. And then if we go with this option, the next node will say, yes, you may enter, and then the NPC will play this bow on respect on this guard again. So just the custom animations are made using Motion Pro to tweak some of the few animations. If we say, no, I don't, there's no condition here and there's no script, he's just going to go away and the system trigger will still be the same. So if we enter again we'll be able to set up dialogue. But over here, you may enter. When we have already paid and we can enter, we don't want to be able to see the dialogue again. So that's why you can go into these events down here. And then on the scene event, what you're going to do is, I have these three here, and I have the first one, the trigger zone. I'm going to say box collider enable false. So we're not going to be able to go in and trigger the collider again. And then I have these ones, open door scripts. These both are just basically two scripts which are located on these two doors here, which will open them up with these four. If we say, no, I don't, then there's no condition. You can come back, and you can also come back and run the dialogue again. Now, on the third one, there's no condition, there's no script. The player says, no need, I will fight you. With the sequence look at, they will look at each other. There's no condition, no script. The NPC will say, let's fight then. And then the animator will play this taunt animation. Again, after comma, the exact wording of your game object. And then down here, after we say let's fight, then we're gonna change faction on the NPC from friendly to not friendly. Again, this is inside the script, I will show you later. And again, the trigger box, we don't want to see that. This one there's no use here, you can just delete that empty. So on this one, you can see that NPC will respond, let's fight. He's going to play this animation, the taunt animation, on this game object called guard, soldier, female, extra. And then on the scene event, what I added is that to be able to fight him, because he starts out, the NPC starts out as friendly, then what we want to do is set him to not friendly. We're just going to change the faction to enemy on the player. And then also the trigger box, we're going to disable that. So that's how our layout here is set up on our conversation. And this conversation is called need to enter. If we go back, look at our guard, under the detection, you will see that on the faction settings, it has set the faction player to friendly. So it starts out as friendly, it's not going to attack me. This will be changing in code. Now let's go in and add in a dialog manager prefab, like we did before with the cube. So under your assets plugins, go into pixel crushers, then under dialog system, under prefabs, dialog manager, add that into the scene. Now, here's the cool thing. We're going to change the UI so it's more representative of our game. First of all, initial database. Which database will you use? If you go to the dialog, you can see we already have a database up and running here. It's called dialog database test. So go in here and find dialog database test. This one, that's one we're going to use. But we're not going to use in this basic standard UI, this one over here. Instead, if you go to your Pro, you have the templates and you have this Pro folder. If you open that, you have these different ones. If you took the sci-fi, open that up, you can actually see how that will look like. The sci-fi will look something like this. So you have just to, you can go in and look at the different ones. Let's look at the computer. How does that look? That looks something like this. We have this greenish text, computer text up here. Now you can modify any of them personally to match your scene, of course. But I found out for this specific layout here, using this Senti model asset here, the Ancient Empire, I found that this runic actually looks pretty similar to what I'm going for. If you open this, you can see the color scheme here. It looks very much similar to this. So I'm gonna go with this one. So what you're gonna do is go into Dialog Manager. Let's just pin it down. And then up here where it says Dialog UI, let's just drag in this runic standard dialog, enter here. And we don't want to use the preview, we want to use an instance. So we can make only changes to this, but not the original one. Add instance, and then you see it down here. Frame it up here. Now we have this runic up here. If you go into dialog canvas, you can see that you have it right here. It's been added as an instance below your canvas. So if you add another one, you will just be adding those in here, but you have to put it inside this slot here. Now, just as we did before with the cube, we go down, and for the input device, we don't want to have this control cursor state enabled, like so. Let's modify a little bit here. If we go in and scroll down this runic standard dialog UI, for the alert panel here, we don't want to use that, so you can just easily go in and just disable that. Furthermore, this image portrait here is a little bit too small for my liking. So actually, let's give us some better room here to look at. I'm just going to disable the pause menu there. This here, the picture. If we go down to the, open up the dialog panel here, you will see you have a main panel, text field UI, open the main panel, then the portrait image, this one. Let's first of all drag it up and also make it somewhat bigger. This, and maybe drag it up so it now it's going to be presented somewhat like up here. And this is going to be both the NPC and the player portrait image we put up in the dialog systems under the actors. So these images will show up there. And then also, let's see here, the NPC name. These are a little bit too short as well. So let's see here, portrait name. That's this one. I want it to be, let's say 20. Something like that. And then if you go down to the scroll rectangle, this one, and scroll content, then you have the subtitle text, this one, and you have the response text below. For the subtitle text, I also want that to be 20. And for the response, this one here, let's also add that to 20. And you can go in and change your fonts in here as well, if you want that. So for the name here, portrait name, this one, let's say that the font, we don't want that to be this default one. You can actually just go through whatever font you have in the system. I'll go with this first order grade, and I set the font style to bold. And then of course you can modify the different UIs here if you want. The continue button is the one you have here. You can make it bigger, move it around, do exactly how you want. So this is just standard, basically Unity UI. You can go in and change so it's fit for your liking. So that was how we set up the UI for our scene. Now back to the NPC here. On the movement, I also set the wander type to stationary, so the AI doesn't wander around. I just want it to be stationary here at this point. If we play the scene, you can see how it looks like. So she's just standing there. Now as you see, when I start the game, I start with 900 gold coins up on top. On my left side here, I have added here a gold coin. This is a interactable object from Malbers Animal Controller asset. So when I go in and get that gold coin, it's gonna add 600 on top of this 900. So this is how we pick up the gold. So we want to start with a lower value than 500 first, in order to not be presented with the option to actually have the gold coin present. But then we go and get it afterwards. Then we can see how that one works. So this UI is basically just, all these are prefabs I just took from another demo scene from inside the Malbers Animal Controller. In here, there's a game object called main UI. Under that, you have this coins UI. So on this coins UI, this has this int listener on the coins. This is a scriptable variable. This one, coins my game. I just took one of the regular coins, duplicated it, and changed it to my name. And inside here, my variable name. So I know that this will be the one I'm gonna use out for the game. Go back to the coins UI. So right now, this was the last value it remembered in here, because I started with 900, and when I took the gold coin, it added 600 on top of that. So that's just the value it's gonna keep remembering. Every time you play the game again, it's actually gonna remember this value and just build upon of that. So that's why, to avoid that, you're gonna add in this reset scriptable variable. When you do that, every time you die, every time you restart the game, it will go in and reset it to whatever value you put in here. So right now I have 900. Let's just put 400 in here and then play. I should start with 400 up here. Yes, like so. And if I go take this gold coin right now, it should add 600 on top of that, so I should end up with 1,000, like so. So now we have enough. Cool. Now before we go into and look at the code, let's see how we set up the system trigger, just as we did with the cube. So system trigger around our NPC player. So under our NPC player, I basically just added an empty game object called the trigger zone. This one. On this trigger zone, there's 3 game objects. Box collider set to trigger, a dialog system trigger, the main one in here, and this system trigger is the same one we used as the one on the cube, where our conditions trigger here will be on trigger enter, and it's going to use our database, our dialog database test. Then on the actions, what we did is we're going to say what will it do when we enter the trigger. We're going to start our conversation, which one will use our need to enter, and that's of course corresponding with conversation need to enter, this one here. And the conversation actor, you just drag in your NPC here, and your conversant, you just drag in your player. And I also enable these show cursor during conversation and pause game, these two here. Then the last game object is the dialog system events. These things you will see what these methods are inside our code when we look at that. But basically I say when the conversation starts, then on our NPC, we want to set NPC animated to unscale time. Because remember we checked the pause game during conversation, that means you will not be able to see any animation playing. Even if you go into your animator here, let's see this one, animator, and change the update from normal to unscale time, that didn't work. I'm not sure how Emerald AI go in and overwrite that. So I had to go in and do it through script. So in my script you will see that I have a method called set NPC animator unscale time. And then we have this enemy UI stats group. I just set that to false. That means the enemy health UI, which is the red health bar, which is above the enemy. I don't want to see that while we are inside the conversation, so I'm gonna disable that. So this here just looks at the conversation start. When the conversation ends, I'm gonna set the animator to normal time again from the guard, and I'm gonna enable the health bar. That's basically what we have here. So that's what these 3 game objects are looking at. And if you look at the box collider and trigger, you can see how it looks like right now. So we can go in and just expand it a little bit, like so. So now we have the NPC setup, we have a dialog setup. Now it's time to go through the code. Remember, I will link this inside the description, so you can just download it, use it, modify it as you please. But this is just to give you a good overview how the dialog system works. Let's go in and have a deep dive on the code. So this is how the code looks. This is a script called modify NPC. Here you can see all the different namespaces I'm using. So first off, I'm getting an reference to my Emerald AI component up here. Then I have a public transform to my player. I'm looking at my box collider, and this one is used because I'm using low attacks. If my player is crouching, then I want him to play another attack. I'm getting reference to my animator. Then I have these bools, who's basically just gonna look at if I've been attacked once, or if it has played the bool once. The same with the update UI. It starts with false. This will be the UI for the coins. And here I'm actually going to reference to the coin UI, which you will see out in the inspector. Then we're getting a reference to our box collider, the trigger collider. So this is the trigger collider, which is on the NPC. And then I have these public int current gold and public int gold price. So the gold price is 500, and this is what I have as current gold right now. This is just used to check if my player is crouching or not, and a bool check again to see if player is dead. Now, the lure language, you put those under in your awake method. And the way you write out a lure method is like this: lure.register function, name of, set bool update coined. These will be names you're gonna be giving. Then get method, simple extension, get method, set bool update coined. If you look at these, they're basically written in the same way. So these get current gold, they're pretty much very logical. Subtract gold, current gold price, get current gold, and such. So if we look at this current gold, if we're using a bool, we're gonna write out a bool reference like this: bool set bool update coin, return what? It's gonna return whatever bool or int values you have specified up in your regular Unity code up here. So for example, this lure language get current gold will look at to see fetch what is my current gold. And what will it return? It will return my current gold, which is this int up here. And the same thing here, current gold price. Remember, we don't have these current gold price written anywhere other than in here. So whatever you put in here will also be the same thing you double out here. Current gold price. What will that return? It will return this int here called gold price, which is this one. So 500. Now, this one, subtract gold, is just a method I have, like a public void subtract gold. So why do I have it up here? Because when we want to use it inside the dialog system, then you need to be able to register it inside the code as Lua register function before you can use it inside the dialog. So you remember, if we go back again and look at our dialog, if we have the gold, then this script subtract gold, that will be this method here, subtract gold. And the same thing here, get current gold, that will be this one, get current gold is larger or equal than current gold price, current gold. So these values you have in here will be the ones you're going to put inside your conditions or your script. Not these ones. These ones are the int or the bools that you have, which what I call the regular Unity. It always has to be in the awake. When we go down to the start method here, I just have enable box collider, and you will see which box collider that is. I'm invoking that. Then I'm going to say my current gold is going to be equal to the coin UI value. So whatever the Malbers Animal Controller coin value is, that will be the equaling to the current gold. So it adds up. Again, my AI, I'm fetching my emerald component here, the AI itself. And if I can't find the AI, I'm just going to run a debug here. Then I'm going to reference the animated component on the AI itself. For the update, I only have these lines here, which is update the UI, and that's the coin UI. I'm going to make a update UI false, because first it starts with false, and then in the update, if it becomes true, it's going to do one check and then make it false again. Now, these ones here, crouch true, crouch false, player is crouching, player is not crouching. So these here are basically just checking if my player is crouching. If he is, then my enemy AI will actually do another attack where he's doing a lower attack. So instead of looking at a normal attack, which is on the normal height level, I'm just gonna do some checks here. Again, this is probably not a use case for you, it's just for my own. Then we have this. Not friendly. So this is here where we said that if in our dialog we say no, I want to fight, then let's fight. We're gonna run this not friendly method, and the not friendly will be this one, where we actually go in and set the faction level to enemy on the player, and also we set combat target for the player transform. That's why we had a reference to the player transform. We will go in and search and attack for the player. Now if we go into these two public voids here, set NPC animator, animate unscaled, and to normal time. So these are the one we set up in our events, where we said that we want to make sure that while he's in a conversation, we want our Emerald AI animator to be actually be playing the animations, even though that we have set the dialogue system to set up to pause the game. Same thing when we put it back to normal, we're gonna run this method here, and we're gonna put it back to normal, and we debug it. Then we have the public void subtract gold. This is also the one that we have up in our Lua language. So we are registering it as Lua language up here, subtract gold inside our game. On this node, here you go. If we have the current gold is above current gold price, then it's going to run this script, subtract gold. And that has to be registered inside a Lua register function like this. When you have that, then you can run whatever public method, as long as you call it the same here, subtract gold. So what it's going to do is the coin UR value is going to withdraw, it's going to subtract 500 coins from that. And then I'm just debugging it out so I can read out on the console to see that it's actually doing it. On the public void enable box collider, I'm just enabling the box collider, the trigger on the NPC. As soon as the game starts, it's actually going to disable it at first. That's why I put an invoke up in the start method. Yep, the one here. So after approximately 1 second, it's going to go in and set it to true and enable it. Then for these two here, these two are related to the coin UI. So the first one is going to go in and make sure that I'm actually setting it to true, and then I'm going to debug it out. If I set it to true up in my update method, you're going to see I set it to true here. It's going to update the coin UI and make it false afterwards. So it's going to read one time only. And that relates to this one, update coin UI, where it's going to say the current coin UI value will be equal to the current gold. So whatever value the coin UI have, it will be set that to the current gold. Then we have AI take damage. So this is related to Emerald AI. So whenever my AI is taking damage, if it has not been attacked, Then I'm gonna make sure that the player will be set as enemy, and then it's gonna go into combat mode and also look for the player transform. This is for example when the enemy is just standing still, if you're not talking to him or you just want to go on hit him. So if he takes a hit or you shoot at him, then he's gonna become hostile. This is related to when it goes in and makes the bow and respect animation. So that means that he gave you access to enter the temple. This is related to that if he's actually giving you access to enter, you paid up the 500 gold. Then he's gonna play an animation where he sits down and bow. Then when he sits down and bow, if you attack him in that state, then I'm gonna go in and play this. And also again, if not has been attacked, so that's related to the same thing up here. So these two are related to my low attack methods, where I say if my player is crouching, so he's below the normal attack level, this will be set. And if the player is not dead, then low enable will set to true, and if that's set to true, that means it will go in and set another state. The same thing here. Here we'll go in and disable it, and by setting this value low box enable to false. Then my last public method here is just I'm checking if my player is dead. If my player is dead, then anim set bool player dead, I will set that to true, and my two attack 1 and attack 2, I will set those to false. Those are all related to my animator. As you all know, if you have Emerald AI, it's a big spider web of animations here, and I put my extra animations out here, and you have to ensure that they come from the any state here. Then on these strings you can go in and give them conditions, and depending on, for example, here you have the low attack, it's gonna go in to do spear low attack. This one, if I double click that and take the NPC down here, you can see this is the low attack he will perform as soon as if this one is this low attack, the condition has been met, and that's the one I will enable from code. And then it's important that you also give it a string to go back, and I'll put them all to go back to the movement again, so they're not gonna be endless looping in here or stuck inside any of these animations. Now the attacks here, put up these attacks, the lower attacks. Emerald AI under the combat, you will see weapon type. I actually have only one here, because you could argue, say that why didn't you just put the second animation here for the low attack? Because whatever you set up here will be played in this order. Order from first then second. Odds, which one makes the odds, and then the random. If I had something under odds, another value here or another settings I could play with, that would have been nice, so I can actually tell Emerald AI that my player is crouching, but I cannot do that. I cannot do that in here. So that's why I did not set it up here. Instead I went in to make sure that inside his type 1 combat animations, I set the spear attack high, this one, and then the low here, but I did not enable it out here. Instead I am driving this by code. And the way I do that, because they are in type 1, these here in Emerald AI on the left side are all type 1. On the right side you have type 2. So on type 1 we would take attack states, open this substate here, you will see that the first attack 1 is relating to my high animation, and my attack 2 is actually my low. So on my attack 1, if you go to parameters, you will see that I have made bools, attack 1, attack 2, and then I have this player dead here. So these ones I'm calling in code, and I'm saying that if I want to play the high, then if we go here and click on the animate transition, then the player dead should be false. This is the condition, and the attack 1 will be true, attack 2 will be false. The same way with attack 2 on this one, attack 1 will be false and attack 2 will be true. That's how I drive these by code. Okay, so let's not drag it out anymore. Before we test it out, one last thing is the script itself, modify NPC, this one, enable it, and here you'll see what we've been doing. The player transform, I entered the player in here. The low box, this is my spear. Again, this is for my use case, you maybe not going to use that. Then the coin UI, here I'm actually going for my own Malbers Animal Controller coins. I set up here, which is set to 400 right now. This is a scriptable object, so it's going to read the current value. Trigger collider. So this is a trigger zone on the actual dialogue system trigger, which will detect our player. And then we have the current gold. It's 900. Gold price is 500. Is player crouch? It's false right now. Let's test out the scene to see if everything is as expected. Right now we have 400 gold coins. You can also see here, this is the current gold. Gold price is 500. Now I go up to the NPC. He says stop. Let's look at the dialogue. No tree. It switches camera. It says enter your business. I need to speak with the emperor. The player says. It switches also the portrait images out here. And because we don't have the over 500 gold coins yet, it's not going to play this no tree. It's going to play these two here. So because the condition here is not met, so I said, no, I don't. Come back when you have. Let's go out and let's check this coil coin here. Now we have 1,000 and 1,000. So let's go up again. He's gonna play the same note tree, but we should be able to present it with this one now. I need to speak with the Emperor. Do we have 500 gold? And look at this. Voila. 3 options are now available. Now I'm gonna say, yes, I have. Here we go. It should subtract 500 from this, and he should play the bow and respect animation, and these door behind should actually open as well. Let's see it. Perfect. That's it. And also, this is also a custom animation I made with UMotion Pro. And this is what I said in the code, that if we hit him now while he's sitting down, he should also react to that and go and attack us. Yep. Okay, guys. Thank you for watching this a little bit longer tutorial. I hope at least you learned something. This was more about how we could interact with the Pixel Crushers dialogue system along with Emerald AI. Keep in mind there's also some documentation. If you go into the Emerald AI wiki, then you can see that there is integration with the dialogue system here. So these we have not been touching upon, but if you want to see more about that, we can always look that in another tutorial. But basically, there's an integration between these two packages, where you will also be able to, first it shows up how to set up the AI, install these different packages. Then you'll be able to use all of these Lua codes. So for example, if you want to receive the Emerald AI's health, damage to him, the player relation, you can set relationship, you can set factions, you can get item IDs, set weapons and such. Many things you can do here. So this is the actual integration between those two. So thank you very much, guys. I hope you stay safe and a happy new year 2025. See you guys. Bye.